Hi guys, we're going to talk about marine birds that you would see on Long Island. I'm going to focus on most of the ones you see when you go to the beach. Um, Obviously marsh or sometimes in your own backyard, these birds can show up. But mostly when you're actually at the water's edge will you see these birds. All right, the first ones are gulls. And like it says there, there's no such thing as a gull. Or sorry, there's no such thing as a seagull. We call them seagulls because honestly, it's hard to tell them apart sometimes, so we kind of just group them all together and call them seagulls. But there's a bunch of different types. Um, and like I said, there are, however, bagels. Haha. All right, so the first one that we have here is the greater backed gull. The greater backed gull is the largest of them. It's a scavenger and hunter. At its best, it can hunt really well. They've been known to come out of the water with flounder. So, remembering flounder is going to be on the bottom. So that means they have to dive accurately through several feet of water to get them, which is, pretty impressive. They will also eat whatever they can find. That is absolutely true. They absolutely can. Sometimes they'll eat other smaller gulls and eggs and smaller birds, even if they can get them. They do change plumage as they grow. One of the other reasons it's so hard to tell all of the gulls apart is when they're younger, all of them look the same. So if you ever see like a brown spotted one, it's not a different type, it's just a younger one. The ones pictured here that have like distinct lines, those are, older adults. But whenever you see a brown speckled one, it's a juvenile, and I couldn't tell you for the life of me which species it was. The greater backed gulls will have pink legs and are much darker. That's going to be the big thing you can see. They're much darker than the herring gulls. Oh, wait. Oh, I didn't show you the video. Oh, wait. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I want to show you this just so that you can, of course, allow cars to go by. But listen to it. All right, hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna get the volume higher here because I really want you to hear that little clacking noise it makes, and I feel like the volume's not that great. It's just a very funny and very distinct noise. Once you hear it, you'll be like, I hear that all the time. And that's that noise, that like little tiny noise that is really very, very distinct, and you do hear it all whenever you go to the beach. All right, so then the next is your herring gulls. Now the big thing is notice the difference between their tail and their back. Their back is gray, it's not black. But again, they don't look that much different than the black back gulls. These guys are a little bit smaller. They're going to be your clam and crab eaters. They're the ones that are smart enough to get a clam and drop it on something hard. When I go for a walk down by the water over here, there's like a little path, and it's cement, and all over it is clamshells because of the herring gulls. Again, they're dirty brown when they're juveniles. They're going to be scavengers. So these guys are part of the problem with the gulls, the herring gull and the blackback, is because they are a little bit of scavengers. They will force other birds off the beach. So they pretty much can out-compete anything because they will eat anything. They're not above stealing food from other birds, and absolutely will steal food from small children. I've definitely had, when you go to like the more populated beaches, especially when I was recently down in Florida, it was like one of those beaches where like your blankets touch, which I don't normally go to, but when I was down in Florida, I did. And yeah, seagull stole Katie's sandwich. She cried and cried and cried, but it did not care. And your herring gull is typically going to sound like this. So again, very common noise at the beach. And so now when you hear that, you can say, oh, herring gull. Oh, there's another gull called the ring-billed gull. I do have a picture on it later on, but not right here. But it does have a very distinct ring around its bill. Besides that, to me, it looks just like a herring gull. It is slightly smaller. The problem with all these gulls, too, is they all hang out together. So it's not like one species hangs out with itself. They intermingle. So you'll be like, oh, look, there's some seagulls. There's 3 blackbacks. There's 4 herring gulls. Oh, and there's 3 ring-billed, and really they're all together. And in the mix there, you'll definitely find some laughing gulls. So laughing gulls are named because they sound like this. Ooh, they sound like they're laughing, Their numbers have been dropping because its coastal marsh habitat has been destroyed, and because the herring gulls are preying on its eggs and its young. They're pushing it out. But they're really good flyers, these guys. I want you to notice, though, right now, its black head, its orange beak, and its orange legs. Because while a black head might differentiate it from the other gulls, you're going to start to see some other birds that will actually also have black heads and similar coloration and kind of mess with you. All right, so now we're going to get into our other shore birds. It's a little bit of the marsh, and I can see 3 different birds here. All right, 3 different species, at least. All right, so the first one is a tern. So like your laughing gull, this guy has a black head and an orange beak and orange legs, but these guys are going to be smaller. They're also better flyers. What makes them better flyers is this forked tail, right? Remember with the fish, we talked about how the forked tail makes them faster swimmers. It's kind of like the same thing. It's just giving the tail more surface area to help them navigate because they use that to steer. So they're found in the same habitat as gulls, so really anywhere near the water. And look at this little baby here. These guys are going to be nesting on the beach. And this one, guys, is not just a tern, but it's a common tern. There are least terns here as well, but they are endangered, so you don't see them as much. They will nest in the dunes, and they will hide under small bushes. They're going to be eating fish. They're going to catch the flounder and stuff like that. But a lot of times they have to bring food, sometimes regurgitated food, back to their young. But look at this guy. Isn't he so cute? And that's right up by the dune line. We can see these guys sometimes, especially, honestly, in areas that we've preserved for the plovers, because, now you have other bird habitat. So let's just listen to these guys. Again, very common noise at the beach. And also, it's going to be mixed in with all of those other bird noises. If you put them all together, that's really what you hear when you get a lot of birds at the beach. All right, and now you have a skimmer. Skimmers are going to be more in the bay than on the ocean, but obviously if they're on the bay, they can easily make it to the ocean. They look a lot like the gulls. Their body's a little more oddly shaped. They're going to catch small fish by slicing their knife-like lower jaw through the surface of the water. So you can see, like, here's the shorter part, and here's the longer part, which would be underneath the water. And so anything that's on the surface, they're going to get, and they will fly like this for a while. And you can see them. You can see them on the bay all the time, flying with just their lower beak in the water. Right, they're again going to nest on beaches, right by the dunes, so in the same places as the terns. You'll find these. And again, notice the orange beak and the black head. So it's they're all very similar. They're overwintering in the south, and on the next slide here, you're going to see I love the oyster catchers, but these 2 birds look very similar. So it's really hard for me sometimes to know if I'm looking at an oyster catcher or a skimmer. Typically on the bay, you're going to see skimmers. That's what's much more common. There are a couple oyster catchers. Oyster catchers are coming back. They were close to threatened and not very common. Both of these birds are going to migrate. So they go down south and they come up here to breed. This one right here, let's just listen to her skimmer, is very loud and very obnoxious, which actually makes it really easy to distinguish it for me. Stop. Okay. So you can imagine when you are, on the beach, and you hear a bunch of them flying overhead. They're very loud and they sound like that. And that's how you're going to know it's a skimmer right away. Because part of the problem, too, is that when these things are flying, they're moving quickly, and it's hard to tell. Oyster catchers are other very cool birds. I just put one picture on there of this guy. But notice his longer beak, okay? And it's very narrow. He's literally going to take his beak, put it in the sand or the mud, and just feel around for whatever he can feel for. But what he's really hoping for is a mussel or an oyster or another bivalve, and they're going to be open, right? Because they're going to be filtering water. So they're going to be open. So he's going to try to quickly stick this beak right into the shell, cut those muscles, the abductor muscles that close the shell, and then he can eat the whole shell. That's really what he's going for, but he'll, sniff around, kind of, that's what it looks like, but feel around, I guess, is a better word to say, and look for anything to eat in the water there. So again, they sound really different. It's more of a high-pitched peep, whereas this is just like, I don't even know what that is. Loud. It's loud. All right, so the piping plover, have to talk about them. You guys just did an assignment on them. I'm not going to spend too much time, but I don't want to get into the politics of it. But I will say this: the birds are awesome. Their chicks are the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I like to go to the beach a lot, so there's ups and downs. But so you guys did the assignment, so you kind of have an idea of them. But I love this picture because did you notice that the two chicks were right there? A couple of years ago, no, maybe like 2 years ago. So Emily, so she was 5, right? Or it might have been last year when she was 6, something like that. Emily, anyway, we're on the beach. It's in the morning. It's like, early, so we're the only people around. And we're the only people around. And she said, "Look, Mom, there's a piping plover." And I look up, and all I see is a couple of seagulls. And I was like, "Yeah, it's not a piping plover. That's a seagull." And she's like, "No, Mom, it's a piping plover, and I think it's a baby." I was like, "No, it's definitely not a baby, and that's a seagull." She's like, "Mom, are you looking right there?" Guys, I'm telling you, 3 feet away from us, in a divot of the beach. You know how everyone walks on the beach and it gets divots? So in a divot, there was this little piping plover chick that I did not see, and Emily was like a foot away from it, pointing at it. They are as cute as can be. If you get a minute, go look at Pixar's little plover 15-minute little video. Oh my God, that's adorable. If we were in class, I think I'd be showing it to you. All right. These are the sandpipers, and they do make it to some of my favorite birds. I do have a list going. My first is the great blue heron, which we'll get to on this later on the slide. My second favorite is the albatross, because I just can't get over, well, obviously the mating ritual is amazing, but I can't get over how far they fly. And then my third is the osprey, which is also later on in this presentation. But these guys are kind of high up there, simply because of this. How they go back and forth to the waves is amazing to me, and I could watch them all day long, and the amount of energy that they have and how much they have to eat to keep up the energy to get more food, it's just so funny to me. All right, so these are the ones that go back and forth. They can be a little bit browner. This is, they look like, they do have the black beaks. These are the little guys. I'm talking maybe like 4 or 5 inches high. And they're going to be, when the sand is wet, they're looking for little invertebrates, amphipods and copepods that were left behind by the water. And that's why they have to follow the wave out to get to the wet sand, because that's where their food is going to be. Oh, this thing is going to be in my way. Hold on. Come on, I want to hear them. Oh, well, I'm sorry, guys. You'll hear them on here, though, because this is what they do. All day. I could watch this all day. Up, run, get your food. Get your food, get your food. Up. Wait, come. Run away, run away, run away. I really could watch it all day. But run on the left. I mean, they're fast, right? Okay. I want to see if I can go back and get this. This has to. No, if I hit exit, I'll leave. That I have to remember not to put things down there. Oh well. Okay. You guys can feel free to go back in the slide and look for that little button to play that sanderling noise. Oh, I should tell you that the sanderlings are often called sandpipers. They're kind of called the same thing, so it's not the biggest deal. Okay. What's coming next here? All right, so now we're going to get into our wading birds. Guys, I didn't go through all of the birds that are commonly on the beach, but those are the biggest ones. I feel like not biggest in size, but I guess most common, I should say, or coolest. There are other ones, but I literally would be here forever going through all of them. So we're going to talk about our wading birds. Wading birds are less spotted on the ocean and more spotted on the bay. They're not they're not going to be waves. They're also in fresh water. They're going to be in fresh or salt. You can see them going in any creek or river on Long Island, basically. Going, paddleboarding or kayaking down Carmen's River is an awesome place to see a lot of them. All right. So this is, two different species, right? What's the biggest difference that you notice? I hope you say yellow legs. And that makes it easy because this guy is called a greater yellow leg. There is also a lesser yellow leg. I don't really know the difference. But they're both going to put their beaks and search for small invertebrates in the marsh. So they're going to stick their beaks in the marsh and kind of search around with them. And this is a willet. Willets are pretty cool. You do see them on the ocean here and there, mixed in with all those sandpipers, and they look out of place. They're giant, and they don't run away from the waves. Like if the wave's going like super slow and is like like an inch of water that like creeps slowly, they'll stay there, whereas the sandpiper's still running. So they're pretty cool. But anyway, two different species, guys. Notice, to me, the shape of their beak's a little different, but when they're moving and stuff, the biggest thing obviously would be the color of their legs. The bittern, so I don't have a lot of like extra writing, but I didn't know that this bird existed until very, very recently. And I kind of think that's weird because I don't know that much about birds, but I like them. I think they're very cool. And I do like to go by the marshes and look for them and just like be like, oh, look, that's this and that. I feel like the reason I've never seen it, I've probably been sitting right next to them and not even noticed. You're always looking for like the white, egret or something. But so that makes me feel silly that I didn't notice this guy. But this guy is going to be, he's going to, when he's threatened, he's going to stand straight up because you can look right there. His neck is striped white and brown. So obviously striped white and brown in marsh environment like this, he's going to fit right in. He stands out a little bit more over here. But they're going to sit there in the marsh and wait for the fish to swim by and get them, right? And so it's, pretty awesome camo though. All right, so egrets, these guys are more and more common all the time. When you see one, you're probably seeing a great egret. Sometimes they have little like poofs off their head here. And that's just when it's breeding plumage. They're going to look fancier when they're breeding. And these guys are so common. When I was a kid, we never saw these guys. So it's a big deal. And for you guys, you're like, I see that all the time, probably, But for me, I'm still like, oh, an egret, and another one. I see them flying over my house. Actually, I think I have on here. I think maybe it's the next slide. Maybe I'll come back to this one. Yeah. I did do that. All right. So this slide here was taken in my backyard. I was actually doing some work at my kitchen table, and I look out and I see this guy, right? And he's hanging out, and I'm obviously sitting there with my iPhone through the screen trying to take a good picture. But it seemed, I do live pretty close to the water, but it did seem kind of out of place because he's on a tree branch and not a marsh, So I don't know what he was doing there. He stayed there for like a good 5 minutes, kind of looked around, and then took off, and that was it. But let me go back to the previous slide. So all right, so that's the great egret, right? And then here's the snowy egret. Snowy egret is endangered. Snowy egrets are going to have that yellow feet and a black beak. So it's kind of hard to like remember all this stuff because the great egrets are black all around. I should say their feet are completely black, whereas their beak is completely yellow. They do have a little bit of green here, but it's kind of hard to tell when their beaks come together. But these guys just have a little bit more distinctive coloring with a black beak with the yellow marking, and then the yellow feet with the black legs. All right, and think about how the snowy egret, first of all, it's going extinct mostly because so many people have taken their feathers because they have more of that poofage back here, even when they're not breeding. So they've taken their feathers so that they can, for like decoration and stuff, for like hats, whatever it might be. Both of these birds will typically migrate, though after a mild winter, we're getting more and more of them here that stay over the winter. But they have their yellow toes. Their yellow toes are an awesome adaptation because they'll stick them in the mud, right? And it's pretty muddy, so you can't see the legs. But they wiggle their toes, so the toes look like little worms. And when the fish come by to check out their toes, he takes his beak and he stabs them. With such fast, awesome accuracy. It's like, if you watch a video, it's like 1 second, done. All right. So it's pretty cool adaptation there. And that's my backyard one. All right, this is my favorite bird of all time. I mean, they look like little dinosaurs, don't they? Seriously. The big difference here in the with the feathers is breeding plumage looking fancy versus just regular old. Um, and again, they're gonna wade. They're huge. They're pretty big. I don't know. I don't remember their exact height, but they only weigh like 4 to 6 pounds because they're like all birds. All their bones are hollow. So when you see them take off, you're like, "Whoa, that's a big freaking bird!" But it's not that big, it's not that heavy, I should say, compared to how big it is. They were really hunted for their feathers too. These guys are found across really North America. They like fresher saltwater areas. They will. There's some great white herons, but those ones are only in Florida. So, but there's an area in Florida where the blue heron and the white heron overlap. Their habitats overlap, and then they do interbreed. So they're not completely different species because they interbreed, and they have this mixed bird called a wanderling, which is kind of awesome looking. Um, what do you want to say here about these guys? Um, oh, they can go in really cold water because even in the dead of the winter, because they don't have a lot of blood flow to their legs. So because remember they're warm blooded, but so with no blood, with like very little blood flow, it doesn't really affect them so much. So they can definitely do that. But I just think they're so beautiful, and I love them, and I feel so like I feel like that was a good day. I saw a blue heron, kind of thing. They sound like dinosaurs, kind of. This is when one gets startled. If you scare it and it takes off, it'll sound like this. Sorry, it made me laugh. Come on, it sounds like a dinosaur, doesn't it? Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into waterfowl, and I'm going to cheat here because I'm not going to get into all of them. I'm sorry. You can hear the music. I'm hanging out on my front porch because it's the only place it's quiet. Wherever I go, my kids find me, and they have lots of questions, and it's messing up every video I make. And I just wanted to find like a place they couldn't find me. So sometimes if I go on my front porch, they're in the backyard, and they'll go through the house to look for me, but they don't look on the front porch, so I'm hiding. All right, anyway, waterfowl. But that's why you hear the cars going by and stuff. But it's better than the kids asking a million things. Um, I'm kind of cheating here because I'm not talking about all of them. I'm going to talk about really, I think, just one of them. So before I move on, I want to talk about swans. You guys should know swans are invasive. Were brought here from Europe because they're obviously gorgeous. But swans take over. They're obviously very aggressive. Don't ever approach a swan. But they'll take over habitat, and they kick other native birds out of that habitat. And also, they are becoming extremely overpopulated, right? The other one I want to talk about is Canada geese. Canada geese are native completely, but they're becoming also overpopulated because we're creating more habitat for them. Canada geese like big grassy open areas. That's why like school grounds and things like that always have to put up like fake dogs or whatever, the wooden dogs, to keep the geese away because their poop is everywhere, and it does create problems with like eutrophication, getting into waterways and stuff. But the big thing with the geese that I thought was cool that I didn't know, that I recently discovered, so I needed to share it with you guys, is that in July they can't fly. So these guys will migrate. They usually summer down here. That's why they're Canada geese, and then they winter in Canada. But there's some populations that actually summer down like in North Carolina and then winter here. So we do get geese all year round. It's not necessarily the same population of geese that you see in summer and winter. They do typically migrate. All right, so if you see them in the summer, they're going to be in the water a lot to try to protect themselves from predators because they can't fly, because they have just shed all their flying feathers and they're getting new ones. And I never actually knew that. So maybe, that's just kind of cool to hear. Coolest, I'm going to focus on the coolest waterfowl, which to me is the cormorant. Cormorants are also invasive. They are becoming very, very common. So I mean, are they overpopulated? That I don't know, but I do know they're extremely common, and they were invasive, brought here by fishermen. So how they're used they're from Asia. So how they're used in a lot of fishing villages is like as almost like a pet. The owners will keep like a collar on them and keep them very well fed, but they also let them fly around on like a leash and a collar, and the birds will catch fish and bring them back to their owner, which is cool. Here, they were brought here for the same reason, except the collar was tightened so they couldn't swallow the fish; they would have to drop it. So not so much of a pet, more like a worker bird, um, but still same kind of theory. So it does. They're really good divers. When I used to take the ferry over to Fire Island, it's like a half an hour ride, and this is before cell phones, if you guys can imagine. So I'd sit there and I'd be like reading a book, or every so often I'd like watch a cormorant and I'd watch it dive, and I'd watch to see where it came up and how long it took. Guys, they'll stay underwater for 5 or 6 minutes, and they end up in a completely different place than where they started. So they're moving the whole 5 or 6 minutes, which is kind of crazy. And they can do this because they don't have any oil on their feathers. The oil on the feathers keeps the feathers dry. So the other birds, like remember the osprey from last week, they have oil on their feathers. So when they pull their wing out of the water, their wing is dry and they can take off, right? But these guys can't do that. So a lot of times they won't be able to fly right away. And that's why they're always standing on rocks and like the dock pilings, just with their wings out, trying to dry their wings so they can start flying again. What else am I going to tell you? That's pretty much it. Like that was that for the cormorants. They're very closely related to a loon, so you might see those somewhere. But the ones that are all black like that are cormorants. Osprey, oof, very cool bird. Third favorite. This morning, I have a nesting pair that lives close to me, and there's a dead tree across the street, and so it's not, they don't use it to nest in. And for this has been going on for years. They nest, over there. But the male will bring fish and eat them up in one branch in the dead tree across, right, like where I'm looking at right now, across from my house, which I think is amazing because it's like he's caught a fish and he doesn't want to bring it home to share it. He's probably got a nest of little chicks, and they do have 2 to 3. A lot of cool things about ospreys. First of all, they mate for life, which is amazing to me. They're only here in the summer. They get here, I think the male gets here right around St. Patrick's Day, like March 15th, and the female comes like 2 weeks later. The male spends those 2 weeks getting the nest ready. Whatever damage happened over the winter to the nest, he fixes it up, he gets it ready. We'll see them when they first get here, and they always have little sticks in their mouths and stuff. It's pretty cool. And they like dead trees like this. But what do? We take down dead trees, right? So they don't have a lot. And they're like big open areas with nothing around them. And that's why you find, and I think I spoke about this in the other slideshow I gave you, but that's why you find them in like light posts by the fields and stuff like that. Like at school by the track, we have them. I love when they're carrying a fish and it looks like they're surfing the fish, because they're trying to be like aerodynamic as they're flying. So they actually put one foot in front of the other to make the fish go like that way. So it's not taking as much energy to fly with the fish. And they're definitely looks like they're surfing the fish. And I think I spoke about the DDT, how it really weakened all their shells. So like maybe for you guys, it's not again like a big deal to see them a lot, but for me it is. I never saw an osprey as a kid ever. And then maybe like 6-7 years ago, I saw a couple and I was like, whoa, osprey. Now you see them all the time everywhere. And it's very, very cool experience. I'm hoping it's the same experience you guys will have with bald eagles. That is a rumor of 1 or 2, and then as you grow older and become more aware of them, you'll see them all the time and be like, oh yeah. And every time you see them, it'll be a big deal because you remember a time you didn't see them. To me, that's what the osprey is like. Maybe not as much to you guys, but I think they're so cool. And I could talk about a while about how they dive and stuff, but we kind of covered that last time, so I'm not going to do that. The other thing I wanted to mention, so they do mate for life, right? But when they do migrate, but when they do migrate down to South America, they go to 2 different areas in the rainforest. All of the males go to one area and all the females go to a different area. So they come back for breeding season and to raise their chicks, because their chicks will hatch around now but won't be able to leave the nest until around September. So I just feel like that's just kind of so cool. All right. So I'm done introducing new birds to you guys. I think I did almost like 15 birds there. That's a lot of birds to digest in just a short amount of time. What you guys are going to want to do, though, if you ever see a cool bird, A cool app to use is iNaturalist. So you take your picture and then you put like suggestions on what it is. And what they do is they're collecting information from people all the time. And most of these people like are real scientists that know what they're doing. And so they give you suggestions. The app gives you suggestions of what it could be. And so that's cool because then you can be like, oh, wait, it could be this or this. So even if you're not 100% sure, you could at least like know that you're not completely off base. Like, I don't know, I was arguing with Paul about something and I was wrong, right? But one of the suggestions was what I said. So I'm like, look, it's not just me. I don't know, I just felt better. So the Ed puzzle. So you guys are going to go through it and you're going to identify these birds. So you have bird 1, bird 2, bird 3. Okay. You might want to stop it, the video, because you're going to have to answer what 1, 2, and 3 is. So maybe pause. Okay. Hopefully you wrote them down and you're able to move on because I'm going to ask you an Ed puzzle. And now I'm going to do 6 of them. Notice how many have those black heads and orange beaks. All right. So try to identify these birds. Go back and look at the slides if you need to. And then, you can open up the PowerPoint separately than the Ed puzzle too. I'm going to post that PowerPoint and the Ed puzzle together. And then, but you can take a look at all these different guys. And so if you need to right now, go ahead and pause it because I'm going to ask a question. All right, next one. Last slide, guys. Last slide. I mean, come on, that's such awesome camouflage. Oh, sorry. All right, and now go ahead and take a minute and do these ones. So pause it right now. All right, and I'm going to say I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson. I've never actually done this lesson before. This was a new one for me. I had to create it from scratch pretty much. So it took a while, but I'm really excited about it because it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And I hope it helps. I hope it makes you be like a little bit more confident about what you're seeing when you do get outside and go to the beach or even just look around in your backyard sometimes. All right, guys, I miss all of you. I hope everybody is doing well. I will talk to you soon. Bye.